the blog post promotion is a very intriguing and very difficult topic for many of us. And I myself, for instance, being a content marketer for Animatron, I struggle with promoting our blog posts and finding new ways of how to better, promote them and find more like exposure and stuff. So I decided to ask a person who knows all about blog posts stuff, and that's Donna Moritz, and she's a digital strategist, and she writes, she has an award-winning blog, Socially Sorted. So who would be the best person to ask? So Donna, thanks so much for finding time today to talk to me about the blog post promotions, and how do you actually approach the blog post promotion or the blog promotion in general?
Well, firstly, thank you, and it's great to chat with you. And I'm sure there's plenty of bloggers that do it differently or better than me, but I'm happy to talk about what I do, because I'm probably someone who does it on limited time. I have a family, and I guess over the years I've developed a few key things that I do. It's kind of like how long is a piece of string, because there's so many things you can do with promoting blog content. And I think it was, I can't actually honestly remember who it was. It was either Michael Hyatt or Ian Cleary or Joe Polizzi, and it could have been all three at different times, that said something to the effect of, you should be spending at least as much time promoting your content as writing it. And I was like, oh man, sometimes it takes me I whip one out in 2 hours, and it's so I always keep that in mind, that I probably should be more to promote it. I guess now my blog does get a lot more. It did that flip a while ago, at least a year or two ago, where it flipped from being more social shares to search traffic. Which is great, because obviously you're getting traffic coming in without having to necessarily promote it. Google's giving you some love, but I still do the same things I've always done with blog promotion. So I have a list of things that I do for every blog post, and I guess it starts with, probably my first thing to do when I've finished a blog post and I've published it is I tweet it out, because there's a number of people that kind of, I guess you call them super fans. They have your blog on auto post. As soon as it comes out, they share it, which is really nice, that they trust my content is not going to be non-shareable. So I usually do that straight away, and then I will do a whole bunch of things. So I have Tailwind. Tailwind is a Pinterest tool, and I tend to favor Pinterest quite a lot these days, because as well as search being really big, my blog, Socially Sorted, is also getting the most social shares are coming from Pinterest, or the most traffic from social media sites. Almost probably, I guess it's about 30% more than Facebook, which really was amazing when that happened. I was like, that's that way. So I will always share to Pinterest via Tailwind to start with. So I'll use Tailwind to easily schedule out a whole bunch of pins to like groups and boards, and then I'll use Tailwind Tribes. Have you heard of Tailwind Tribes?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a little secret weapon, and it's actually free. Tailwind Tribes is a bit like groups of people sharing content together. It's not like, we've had lots of blogs that do that, but it's more for Pinterest. So you have a group. I have a Tailwind tribe around visual content, which is my key sort of content area. And then people come into the group. You have to share as many pieces of content as you would contribute. And the idea is that, hopefully you create a tribe that shares really good content. Some of them are better than others. You have to find the good ones. But for me, that's really great, because I can share my content into a whole bunch of tribes. At other times, I'll go in and I'll just share a heap of everybody else's content. So I usually do that every week. So then I'll have a whole bunch of pins scheduled out. I'll, over a few blog posts at any one time. Side note, Pinterest have said recently that they will favor content that is shared directly from blogs. So if you're ever worried that you can't share your own content a lot, it's really what they are favoring, not repins of other people's content. They like you to share your own content. That's not to say don't share in tribes, but that's been really important to me. So that's the first one. What else have we? Twitter, then I'll come back and I'll schedule out a whole bunch of tweets. I'll usually use Agorapulse as my social media management platform. So I'll usually do I'll do like a whole bunch of tweets, like maybe about 12 or so over a period of a couple of weeks at different times. I used to do more when automated tweeting was allowed. Now Twitter have changed the rules, and we need to be a bit more careful about not duplicating content. So I tend to just go in, I schedule one tweet, and then I go in and just edit it quickly and change like hashtags and emojis and just a little bit of the, some of them might say new blog posts, another one might say new on the blog. Just change it up a little bit. It doesn't take long to edit it. Most of those tools that allow that, like Agorapulse and SmarterQ, they're all currently working on tools to help make those editing changes a little bit quicker. But if you just change it up with some emojis and hashtags and things like that, it works. So, and then I'll tend to add them to tweet out, on a long cycle. So that's sort of my blog content. As far as blogs I love, like Wave.video on the Animatron blog, I have a whole bunch of like sort of influencers and companies I love. I'll share content there. Either retweeting, usually every day I'll go in and retweet, but often I'll schedule it ahead into a queue. And then I have some brand partnerships like Wave and Agorapulse and a few other tools that I'll regularly share out content, and especially those that I know, like your content that you write, that's really quality, and I barely even have to check the blog post, but I do. I have a quick look, but that. So I do that as well. And where else are we? To be honest, I don't do a lot on Facebook anymore. I do tend to. I will have a queue that goes out on Facebook, but as you know, it's not getting a lot of organic traffic. I just sort of do it more for lip service, so that there's something there. But as far as content that I specifically put on Facebook, I like to do a video every now and then, like a little teaser video, and I'd use Wave for that. So like even a 15-second video with some little interesting, fact, and then, check it out on the blog. But I think Facebook for me is probably more these days. It's, if you really want to get results, it has to be live video or video, and just sharing blog posts doesn't work so much. So maybe an image with a link, or I would promote a post with an ad if I really, if it's a really important post. So that's what have I missed? I'll usually share it to LinkedIn as well. There's sort of that would be my. And then I'll share to all my Pinterest boards and groups as well. So that would be my sort of core bunch of shares. I'm just trying to think if I've missed any. They're my main platforms. Oh, Instagram. So Instagram, I would share, usually just, most posts I would do like a square post about the blog, just announcing it, or else I'll do an Instagram story and have some information about, just give people something really helpful, and then lead them to the blog post if they want. But you have to give them some information on Instagram. I think it's really important to give them a takeaway of some sort. So yeah, that's my basic promotion.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a bunch of different tools and different platforms to share your content to. And I about to ask a couple of questions, if I may.
Yeah, go for it.
We noticed that we get quite a lot of traffic coming from Pinterest on our
Great.
blog. So
yeah,
it looks like it's a great platform to be sharing content.
Yeah.
And speaking of Pinterest, I was wondering if what do you think? Is it better just to create like a pin with just the name of the blog post?
Yeah.
Or else it's better to kind of put some highlights from the blog post, like some main ideas and some main points, and share that too. Or should we be doing both?
I think it's probably both. I think at a very basic level, what you guys are doing now is great. And I know I talked to you a while back and said, get some more vertical images, because I was actually wanting to share your blog post, and I'm really glad to hear that you're getting good traffic from Pinterest, because I share them there a lot actually, and they look great. And I think your vertical pins, so just 2 to 3 aspect ratio, regular size vertical pins are really important on any important piece of content you have on your website, because it's a little bit of, it's a lot about what you share, but it's a real lot about what people on your blog are wanting to share, like me. So I'm coming onto your blog and going, I love this blog post, I want to share it. If I'm an avid Pinterest user and I go to share it and there's no vertical pin, I'm like, and I can't say how many blogs I just don't end up sharing to Pinterest because I don't want to share like a square pin or a landscape pin. So it's been great that you have that, and I think that's probably really important. And the fact that you have quite bright, engaging images with just a really simple but a nice font, a nice title, just to add some context with what the blog post is about. So when I see your images on your blog, I go, that's what it's going to be about. This blog is about how to create a video in 15-second video, or this blog is about, Instagram story templates, or Instagram IGTV templates. And so I think with Pinterest, you can get all like creative, but I think people just want to know what the pin is about and they want it to be attractive to share. So you guys are doing a great job with that. I think it is a really good idea to do some other pins. You can share separate content or have an extra pin or pieces of content in your blog post, at least square, but if you can put some more vertical content in, like small infographics or just those same size images. Having some takeaways on there is great. People will usually relate that to, oh, if I click on that, then I'm going to go to a blog post and get more information. So that's really smart. I think there is a tool that I have started using recently, which I really love. It's called Tasty Pins. It's a WordPress plugin. I don't know, are you guys on WordPress, or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a WordPress plugin. It's from a company called WP Tasty. No, WP Tasty, I think it is the website. And they have a bunch of different Pinterest tools. Like, I think they started out with some recipe tools for like, food bloggers. But the one that I like is Tasty Pins, and it basically allows you to give a separate description for Pinterest, because when someone shares content from your blog, it will usually default to the alt text, like the alt text that's on your image. And now that you can have hashtags on Pinterest, if you fill your alt text or your alt description, with all the hashtags, it gets kind of, it's too much. And it's not really relevant to Google. Google just wants to know what the image is about. So you put what the image is about on there, and then this plugin gives you the ability to put an extra Pinterest description that's tailored for Pinterest, and you can put your hashtags in there. So that's really cool. And you can also, and this is why I wanted to mention it, you mentioned about the extra image, you can add hidden Pinterest images. So say for you guys, you might, on the Wave blog, you might put your Pinterest image down the bottom of the post, so that if someone's reading it, they go, oh, there's a Pinterest image, and they share it. But sometimes, it might be worthwhile hiding it, or even having an extra one. So with Tasty Pins, you can have 2 or 3 images. So you then can change around which one is the default one. If you're sharing, you can choose one of 3 images, and it gives people more options. So that's a really cool plugin. I really like it. Yeah. So.
I should definitely check it out.
Yeah. I think you'll like it. It's fun. I think they're bringing in some new features. I haven't checked it out, but it's definitely, it's a food blogger started it, I think, and so it's good.
Tasty, aren't they the guys that kind of shoot the video recipes in like 60 seconds?
Oh, I don't know if it's the same Tasty, but yeah, that is it. They are food bloggers. They're like the most popular food videos. I don't know if it is the same, but it's clever use of a name if it is. But it's WP Tasty, like WordPress Tasty. So I don't know. It could be. Maybe it is.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's with Pinterest. I think they're the keys. I wrote a blog post recently about Tailwind did an interview with Pinterest, and they actually got to interview Pinterest about what actually works. And a few key things came up, like definitely post fresh content, use hashtags, and you can search for hashtags when you go into Pinterest. You can search, type in a hashtag, and some suggestions will come up, and you can see what's on there. So some of those things are becoming more important. So I think a plugin like that's really worthwhile. And so I mainly use Tailwind and and Agorapulse. They're probably my two major sharing tools at the moment for all of that.
That brings another question that I wanted to ask. Speaking of AgroPulse and the Twitter kind of like sharing algorithm, how they do not favor retweeting just the same kind of content, would you like for whenever a new blog post is out and you are kind of scheduling the tweets to go out, like, and you mentioned that it's going to be maybe like a dozen or 10
Yeah.
different tweets in the same.
Yeah, so when I'm promoting something, I'll usually do more and for a while, and then I'll taper it off. Yeah.
Right. So would you like, and you mentioned that you would change emojis and maybe, like add some different hashtags and like tweak the description a little. So would you add another image to the blog post, to the tweet as well? Or?
Yeah. Look, if you have the time and you've got a designer on your team, or you're using a tool that allows you to create visuals quickly, I use Easel, EASIL.com. I honestly would probably, for me, I would do more Pinterest. If I had the time, I'd do an extra Pinterest image, just because Pinterest drives more traffic for me. But I think that's very smart. Like, if you can add an extra image that's Twitter optimized, then definitely. I sometimes will do some quotes out of the post and just do them as images. I think if you mix it up, like, I find people when they share my Pinterest, my Twitter content, if you add a couple of click to tweets in the post, you'll see those being shared around. Some people love doing that. Some people love sharing images. Some people like to just share the Twitter card image that comes up. So I think if you have the time and that platform is one of your better platforms, then definitely do it. Like, Twitter's always been really good for me, but I was finding, and it's interesting now that Twitter are clamping down apparently on repeated content. They don't want you to tweet the same tweet or put the same tweet across multiple platforms. So I was sharing a lot of content on the auto cue tools, and I was finding that my engagement was dropping right down, even though I was still getting a lot of engagement because I was tweeting out a lot, sometimes every half an hour. It was getting to the point where it just didn't seem to be the quality of engagement that I was getting before. So I was already thinking I might start manually tweeting a bit more and, just dropping back on the amount of requeued content. So it was kind of good timing for me. And I'm still sort of assessing how I'm going to go moving forward, but I am doing more retweeting. I'm doing more just putting things in a queue that aren't queued over and over again. So I have a long queue of posts going out, but they're not necessarily requeued. And there's a danger you can forget about them anyway, and then the same posts going out all of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you think, and so even though I was always like, automation is good, it allows you to then spend more time on engagement, I will fully admit that I'm one of the people that, we all ended up occasionally going, that tweet has been out a lot, I need to change it up. The other thing that I've noticed too is that the people tend to hit like on Twitter a lot more because of the heart button is now a like button. It used to be promoted as a save button, and I used to always like save a mention or like a photo someone took of me speaking or something like that. And now it's very easy for people to just click like, and that has humble and not researched opinion probably impacted on the amount of retweets, because it's easier to click like than to, I know it's crazy, but it's one less click than clicking twice to retweet something. So I think that's, I see a lot of likes come through and not as many retweets. So yeah, I think across the board, everything's sort of dropping down, and I think more than ever, it's about quality content, having even just a smaller community that is, sharing your content and interested and trying different platforms as well, and really focusing in on the platforms that work well for you. There's, I don't think organic reach is dead by any means, but I think, you've got to find I work in social media, so I'm probably on more platforms than most people would be, but, I'm sure you at Wave know that, there's platforms that you love more than others, so yeah. Absolutely.
That's so true. Okay. Well, also speaking of Twitter, would you like, so to say you have like 100 different posts on your blog. So of course, if your new blog post is out, you probably would put more effort to its promotion, but would you also like go back to some of the older posts and kind of tweet them as well? So, or
Yeah, I
not
tend to.
do Pinterest things and all kinds of
Yeah. Yeah, I do that on Pinterest a lot. I'll, especially if my queue gets down, I'll go, okay, let's go back a bit. And it gets harder the more posts you have. Like sometimes there's probably a period where my posts are better going back, where I started to really pay attention to SEO and images. And so I could go, I'm finding I'm also going back and cleaning up old posts. So I found a post the other day that was doing well on Google about Pinterest that was ranking higher than a more recent Pinterest tools post. So I just went and updated it with new content, and I'll probably share that out. And I'll go back and share posts that I want to give a bit more love to, definitely. So on Pinterest, I will do that. On Twitter, I will do that. On Facebook, I have like a long queue that goes out, but definitely, you know, you can go back to those posts and repurpose them into short video. You can repurpose, which I'm probably will be doing a lot more of soon. Put them on YouTube as a video, or Instagram story, Instagram TV stories. And the other thing you can go back and do, and one thing I'm going to do, you've written some great posts on my blog. You're a brilliant writer, and I'm very fussy. I get asked for people to guest post all the time, and I don't have many people do it. So, so one post you wrote, I think it was, I'm just trying to think what it was, but it was about video. It might have been how to do 15-second videos or something like that. But I went into Easel the other day and I started to create an infographic for it, because there's so many templates now that you can easily change to create infographics, and then you can go back and put that on an old post and then start sharing it again, and it gives it new life because people are discovering it via the infographics. So I think sometimes, especially if a post is doing well, you might give it more of a boost, or even just try and give more life to a post that maybe isn't doing as well. I think people love, you know, infographics, and I tend to make them really super helpful. So they've always got takeaways on them and that sort of thing. And over the years, we've had infographics get shared tens of thousands of times. You know, I used to create them for other bloggers. I don't so much anymore, but sometimes I forget that I can create an infographic easily with a tool now, and just add that back into a post. So that's a good investment of time. Usually gives you another piece of content to share, and same with a short video. So
and do you notice that infographic gets that an infographic would get shared more on like Pinterest also, or?
Yeah, look, I often just kick myself and say, come on, do some more infographics, because I'll look at my blog posts. Often at the end of the year, I look at my blog post for the year, and I do a post, just like top posts from my blog, top socially sorted blog post for 2017. To be honest, it's actually an easy blog post to write. So then by the end of the year, I'm a bit exhausted. So I'm like, December post, easy. And I just list, but I have to go through all the posts for the year and look at what the shares are. And I usually base it on social shares versus traffic. There's no magic science to it. But always, when I look back, any post that I've put an infographic on will always have over 1,000 shares, usually 1,500 or more. Then really that's a sign I should be doing more of them. But it is, you know, when you're one person with a small team of, you know, contractors, it's not easy to always do it quickly. And I because I teach visual content, I like to do a lot of it myself to show how to do it. So one example is the one that I mentioned to you. I've actually made it. It's almost done, but I'm going to go back and record how to make it in less than literally, if you have the content ready, it might only take 10 to 15 minutes for me to actually create it. So I'm going to show that as a video now, so I can go and do a tutorial on how to do the infographic. So like it's going to be very meta,
you know, like process.
Yeah. So it's so I'll definitely, if you write this up, I'll make sure I add the link to it, and that's going to give me a boost to do it by the end of the week. It's almost done. It was one of those things. I'd almost done the infographic, and then I got distracted, and I just need to finish the bottom part of it. But then you look at it and think, well, that's really something useful for people to know, like how to use a tool like Easel. Or, you know, there's a whole bunch of tools where you can make infographics easily. and just show the actual process. You don't have to make it complicated. It's just a matter of having some content and plugging it in. So yeah, I think, and honestly, I think Wave is a great tool. Like you can create content for social media so easily, and I created videos just to promote a blog post, or I can create a video to put on Instagram stories. I did one the other day, and I even did one for my husband. He's a chiropractor. We did one about text neck and how we all like have a neck forward and the pressure on your neck, and it's just really not good for us with our phones. And he was blown away that he said, did you just create that? How long did that take you? I'm like, I don't know, about a half an hour. I did with a bit of research time for content. And so I think we just have so many tools available. It's a matter of finding one that works for you, that you can quickly create. I call them like the showpieces. Like you've got your shareable images and things like that, and then it's sort of more showpiece content like infographics, video, that if you can put a little bit extra time in, that's how you can really promote your blog, long term. So yeah.
It sounds like a good strategy. Oh, and I was also about to ask, you mentioned that you also post on Instagram, and I just
Yes.
I follow you on Instagram, so I know I see like what types of content that you share, and it all looks very nice and clean. And I noticed that you would put a little bit more content into the description to each Instagram post, rather than.
Oh, okay.
Oh, of course, we have like this limitation of 250 signs on Twitter. So
Yep.
On Instagram, you would. So how is your Instagram strategy, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I was very consistent on Instagram for a long time, and I always say to my audience, I'm starting to get more consistent again because I'm just loving all the tools on there. But for a good year or two, we were really posting every day, a couple of times a day, and I always say if you can focus in on one platform and you'll do really well on it. You don't have to drop the other ones, but it's good to have one focused platform where you really give your love to, because you'll see real results rather than just trying to be everywhere. And so Instagram is one of those platforms for me. I'm really experimenting at the moment, Instagram stories and Instagram TV. I did an episode. I'm hoping to do some more on there. But as far as the feed goes, I think, and it's funny you say that, I just wrote a blog post about it, about Instagram captions. And the difference between the descriptions in other social platforms. I think, with Facebook, people have always sort of gotten used to leaving Facebook to go to blogs, even though I think Facebook's trying to stop that a little bit now. But on Twitter, people are used to clicking away. On Instagram, it's always been about Instagram, and it's not, you can't just come in and ask people to visit your blog all the time. So I don't really post every blog post on there. But what I will do, if I do post about a blog post, is I will do a longer caption. I'll give them some takeaways, give them some tips, and then say, go and read more if you want. But I think you really have to give them something. And if you build up trust on Instagram, people are more likely to click away or to swipe up. I'm lucky I've got the swipe up feature on Instagram. And I find too, with direct messages is really popular. I know that we had a Wave discount a while back, and I had a code that you guys gave me, and I, instead of just putting the code on the Instagram story, I said, hey, if you'd like to get the code, DM me, and then I could have a conversation with people about it. And sure, I just gave them the code, but we could have a little chat, and I got to know who the people were that were following my stories. So I think with Instagram, if you just give a little bit more time and value, and treat it a bit like a microblogging platform, and not feel like everyone has to go to your blog, and when the time is right, then you can ask them to go to your blog. So I do try to find a balance between value and asking them to come to do something. And sometimes that do something can be, DM me, do a poll, like answer a poll. They've got the poll questions now. There's lots of different ways you can get people to interact in stories or on your posts that will tell Instagram that people are liking your content. So I'm sort of experimenting with that more at the moment. But Instagram TV is interesting, and I'm looking forward to using, creating more video content for that as well, and as little tutorials and things like snippets. So
speaking of, because I noticed that you're like you've been posting some content on the IGTV as well. So I was
Yeah, I just started. Yeah.
what's your opinion on like do you consider it as just as yet another platform for like say blog promotion, and how
Yep.
is the strategy going to be different? How is the content that that people probably need to be sharing on IGTV? How is it different from other platforms?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'll be the first one to say that, like I've always said, that there's three sort of, well, at the moment, there seems to be three sort of core places you can do your content. You know, you've got a blog, and then there's video content, and that's pretty much YouTube is the big one. And then you can also house your content. I have some content on Vimeo as well. And then there's podcasting. And although I would like to do more in YouTube and podcasting, I haven't yet. And I've built my business mainly around a blog, and I know a lot of people have. So for me, I want to do more on YouTube. And I would say that would be more longer form content, really like core content. Instagram TV would be, it might be the most detailed content you provide on Instagram, but maybe if you're doing videos on YouTube, you would just use that as like a teaser or some part of that, and then send people to your YouTube channel for more. I think it's going to be more like, you know, thoughts and insights and quick tips versus longer tutorials. Although you can do 1 hour tutorials, but I am very excited. I've had this, bless you over there, my Mac for years from 2011, and it was just doing so well. I even boosted it up with memory, and then I just thought, you know what, you need to retire soon and be used by the kids. So I got myself a 27-inch Mac in June, and I can just get good tutorials with, it's just a bit taller, so you can get some good vertical tutorials where I can screencast. Because for me, being able to screencast how I do graphic creation or creating videos is awesome. So now I can get more of a dashboard of like Wave or Easel or Agorapulse or any of those tools into a vertical format and record straight off my screen without having a vertical monitor. So I'm pretty excited that I could do some little, because I love screencasting. That's where I'm happy. I'm not like a vlogger or anything like that. I like to do webinars, and I like to do screencasting because I like to teach how to do visual content creation if you're not a designer. So it makes sense for me to maybe do more of that on IGTV, and you can just do landscape for YouTube. So you know, but the beauty of Wave is that if you're creating videos with that, I can import my screencasts. I can add, you know, I can import my video. I can add, you know, or I can just create it completely in Wave, and then I can change the size for a lot of the video to different size formats. So I can have square, I can have Instagram story or IGTV. Fortunately, they're the same size. I can have landscape. So I think, you know, it's much easier for us to do video. I was holding back a lot on doing video for a lot of years because it was too hard basket. But now with so much, the editing tools are amazing, and we can do so much. Yeah, so it's pretty exciting. And now that you guys have free text positioning, I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I love this feature too. Like it can, you know, it helps us to be so creative with like where the text and kind of play around the video itself, like the visual, like you can put the around the picture and stuff. So it's it's a weighted feature.
Yeah, and you said about I do a few sort of videos, kind of, you know, stories on Instagram story, and it is a bit fiddly because you've got to put an image in, and then you add all your text, and then another little quick video, and then, but now I could do that much easier. Like I did a video about Wave. It might have been about the free text positioning and the tutorial and the templates. But in hindsight, I looked at that would have been easier just to do on a vertical screen and show. But you know, that was before I got my bigger computer. So I think it is, that free text positioning is lots of fun. And, you know, even just if you've got a design that's got something on an angle, you can turn the text on an angle. And all of the automated or semi-automated video tools, you know, it's always been that you had to have your text fixed in one position, which was, we were happy with because we had these tools that could do great videos, but then you want more, don't you? You want to be able to, and so now we can have it, which is great. So, yeah, I like that. yeah, so I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's, I guess the other thing is, don't forget to do outreach in a really smart way. Like I know that, you guys as a company are very smart with making good relationships with people through conferences, and, a lot of people know you personally, and I think that's a good sign. If you know people personally from a company, all of the bloggers out there and people that use Wave are more likely to share content. And the same goes for other companies or businesses. Sometimes you have to get to know people a little bit and just look sideways. There's also often other bloggers or companies that are coming up the ranks at the same time as you, and they're the ones that will often share your content. You can share their content. So people like Ian Cleary and companies like Agorapulse and Post Planner and Wave and all these companies that I've known for a while, we've always shared each other's content. They've shared my content, I've shared their content, and you even see different companies helping each other out. Like I know you guys have done promotions where I'm sure it's very easy to reach out to the other companies and you donate tools to each other and whatever else, and that's a sign of relationship building. It's not a everyone's not in competition. There's always other businesses that are working in the same space that you can work with to help get your content shared. And I think that's been a huge part of it for me. Not so much me sharing my content, but other people just sharing it for me, because we just help each other out. So
yeah, it's always like, after all, it's always about building relationships, right? It's always about being sincere and helpful and friendly, trying to help each other out, because content and whatnot. So
no, I think that's, I mean, I wouldn't have started to, work more with you guys if I hadn't have met you at conferences, or, met Kate and you and yeah, same goes with any company that I know well. It helps if you have an awesome tool, but I guess I'm in a fortunate position. I get a lot of tools offered to me to use, so I try to sort of recommend ones to people, my audience, that are really good and it's good value for money. I know they can't get every single tool that I recommend, and I'm lucky because I do get access to a few of them, but I'm pretty choosy with which ones I recommend, and usually they have to do a lot of different functions. So that's why I like Wave and all the other tools I've mentioned. They help get a lot done with social sharing. So
it's true.
Yes.
Like with so many platforms that we discussed today, it's always like you gotta work with the tools that to make it easier, because there's just so right?
Yeah, and I think when I did a webinar for you guys recently, and I said, there's three. It's not like anything scientific. It's just, and it's really simple. Just look at three factors and where they're crossed over. One is where your audience is hanging out and where they really, where you can communicate with them really well and engage with them. So check that out. Obviously, if you're dealing with the younger generation, it might be Snapchat or Instagram, or maybe it's Facebook, or it could be LinkedIn if it's B2B. And then you have to make the decision, well, are you comfortable on that platform? And if it's a really video heavy platform like YouTube, maybe you're not a video person, it might not work out, but maybe they're on Instagram and you love being on Instagram, or maybe someone in your team is loving Instagram and that can become part of their role. And the third thing is just the content. What content can you create, and basically find where the sweet spot is between those three, and that's where you should focus. It doesn't mean switch everything else off, but just give your time to that. So for me, it's probably Pinterest and Instagram at the moment, and my blog. For someone else, it'll be YouTube and Facebook. So yeah, it's just,
I guess
otherwise you go crazy.
True. And like you said, like there should probably be like one focus platform, like the platform that we should be paying attention more, and then well, of course, we should probably be present on several of them, just to traffic, and to see maybe Pinterest or maybe Twitter or maybe LinkedIn is going to be our next channel where we're going to get more traffic, but still there's going to be like we're probably going to have need to focus on one thing, because there's just so many and
sometimes, like you said, you might go, wow, look at that Pinterest traffic, seriously, we're getting tons of Pinterest traffic, and then you might say, well, we really need to start focusing there. And I have friends that have one of the top travel blogs in the world, and it became massive. They've voted number 2 by USA Today. It's whytravelblog.com. And that happened to them. Pinterest blew up overnight, and they're like, okay, all effort now going to Pinterest. And they didn't drop everything else. They still built up their YouTube channel, but they just knew that this was something that was happening. They needed to encourage it and help it to grow. So yeah, no, it is true. Sometimes, and I've done different focus platforms. There was a time when I really focused on Twitter, and then really focused on Instagram, and then more recently it's been Pinterest. So it has changed for me, but it's social media keeps changing, and it's, you know, traffic changes, and sometimes you'll get a blog post that just blows up. I've had one recently that's doing really well on Instagram story tools. So then you go in, and we're doing a content upgrade that people can download something from there, or a PDF or something, and you can I'll update it, add some more tools. I'm going to add Wave and a couple of other tools into it. So, you know, just giving those blogs some love too if you find out you're getting good traffic. So yeah, it's a never-ending dance.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Go and update and repeat and share.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, that's quite a lot of information actually, and there's
cool. Yeah.
Some great insights that I can use for our blog as well.
Oh, good.
Like
yeah.
Having an extra Pinterest image, or, you know, stuff.
Yes.
Being more present on Instagram as well. So, Donna, thanks so much for sharing all this with me. And
that's all right. Thank you very much. It's always great to talk to you.
My pleasure too. So yeah, I guess I'm going to